So this morning, I'm sitting down eating reheated pizza for breakfast, thinking about popular children's card games, as any grown ass man does. And I thought to myself, I'm just so glad that I get to play all my most favorite busted cards in domain format. And I got to thinking, but what would be considered Yu-Gi-Oh's Power 9? Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Jesse. Did I hear you say you don't know what domain format is? That's okay. You probably just haven't seen my video explaining the rules. Maybe you haven't seen my deck list to give some people ideas, which have almost hit 5,000 views, by the way, which is pretty exciting. Or maybe you just haven't checked out our Discord yet, where you can read about all the rules and talk with all the other people who jump on, where you will find many friendly people like the ones who helped me with this list today. So real quick, I want to explain what the Power 9 is from Magic the Gathering. I would also like to go through the honorable mentions of the cards that these guys brought up for me to consider. If you don't want to hear that, you can skip ahead to where I start talking about the list of cards. I'll leave a timestamp in the description. All right, really quick, let me explain the Magic the Gathering Power 9. They are 9 cards from the very first set. Back then, they weren't nearly as good at balancing the game. It was fresh, it was all new. The reason these cards are so powerful is because they warp the game's resource mechanic for the most part, or have effects that are incredibly undercosted for those resources that it takes to play them. 6 of them give you extra resources, which warps the game because on turn 1, you can play things that you should not normally be able to play on turn 1. The other 3 cards are cards that have undercosted effects. Not that the effects haven't been done since then. They've made similar cards to Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, and Time Twister. So they've done effects since then that are identical to those 3 cards, but they've made those cards cost the required amount of mana it should take to get those effects. So I'm going to try and keep that in mind when going through my list. Since Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have a resource system, the best comparison, in my opinion, would be to account for Yu-Gi-Oh's card economy. You know, you draw 5 cards at the beginning of the game and it's off to the races. If you end up with more than 5 cards in play and in your hand, you've plussed a few times, and that's good in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So I tried picking cards that give you too many resources at a time that you shouldn't be having that many resources at your disposal without the drawbacks. So that's what I had in mind when I was trying to make this list. I'm gonna try and go through these really quick. GMPD brings up Mystic Mine. Good card, great card. But there's a reason why I wouldn't really consider this Power 9 material. There's some pretty similar cards in Magic the Gathering that they like to call stacks cards. It's similar to what Yu-Gi-Oh players would call floodgates, I imagine. Things like from Magic the Gathering, Winter Orb, Blood Moon, those type of things that attack your opponent's resources and prevent them from playing the game aren't really powerful enough cards for me to consider them to be anywhere close to Power 9. I kind of feel the same way for Yu-Gi-Oh. Great card, super oppressive card, makes it very difficult for your opponent to play. Not what I would consider Power 9 though. Nick, one of our newer members, he brought up Max C. Very powerful card, has very high potential, very high ceiling as far as how many cards it can draw you. But when compared to the other cards that I have on this list, the strength in Max C lies in the fact that it's a very good reactive card, whereas if you open it in your opening hand, it doesn't help you in your game plan. The rest of these cards I think are much better in being proactive rather than reactive. DK is one of the guys that runs the Discord. Him and Jeebus run that place. He brings up Super Poly. Again, amazing card. One of the best pieces of removal, right? Can deal with things, boards that you otherwise wouldn't be able to deal with. Clearly one of the best pieces of removal in the game. But for the same reason with Maxi, it's more of a reactive card, right? Because on turn 1, it doesn't do anything. He also brings up Fiber Jar, which I think has an effect similar to Time Twister, which is an actual Power 9 piece for Magic the Gathering. But for the same reasons, Fiber Jar is something that you would have to set and then flip. I imagine in most Yu-Gi-Oh games nowadays, you would set it, pass, and it would just get destroyed by Dark Hole, Regeki, whatever. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to use this. But when you do get to pull it off, it feels good, it's fun. Cool card. I just think the other cards on this list are, again, more proactive. Supreme King Prometheus, also another new member. He brings up 2 great boss monsters, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and Destiny Hero DPE, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Obviously, these 2 cards are some of the best boss monsters in the game. They are hard to deal with in their own ways. They get you lots of advantage, but I just think that these cards go in far less decks than, again, the cards that I have listed in my list. DK also brings up Verte Anaconda, definitely a contender for a card that gets you tons of crazy advantage and is easily able to summon the best boss monsters. But again, with Dragoon and DPE, those don't go in every deck. I would say they go in less decks than the cards that I'm going to be listing if they could go in decks. And he also brings up Ash Blossom. The thing with Ash Blossom is kind of the same thing with Maxi. Ash Blossom kind of reminds me of something like Force of Will from Magic the Gathering, which is a free counter spell, which is good in that game, kind of the norm for Yu-Gi-Oh. Definitely one of the best hand traps, just not what I would consider power 9 level. Okay, so I do have these listed in order. I'm going to go starting with number 9 all the way up to what I think is the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 1. Starting off, this is the only trap on the list. I do think the power of this card warrants its position on the list, and it's number 9 because of the fact that it's a trap. And that card is Sixth Sense. You declare 2 numbers from 1 to 6. Your opponent rolls a die, and if the result is one of the numbers you declared, you draw that many cards. Otherwise, you send that many cards from the top of your deck to your graveyard. Now, obviously, when anybody plays this card, they're just going to pick 5 and 6 because they'll either draw 5 or 6 cards or mill 5 or 6 cards, both of which in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be quite powerful. Clearly, you'd want to draw the cards, but there's more than enough strategies that would love to mill 5 to 6 cards as well. Just a busted card, banned, can't play it anywhere. $6 common for a reason. Number 8. This is number 8 because it has a high ceiling as far as how many cards it can draw you, but it takes a little bit of work to really make it shine. And that's Mirage of Nightmare. It's a continuous spell, once per turn during your opponent's standby phase. Draw cards until you have 4 cards in your hand. If you do during your next standby phase after that, randomly discard the same number of cards you drew or your entire hand if you do not have enough cards. Now, even in regular Yu-Gi-Oh, you would play this, hopefully, set all the spell and traps, draw up to 4 cards, and then on your opponent's turn, after you've drawn the cards, destroy it with Mystical Space Typhoon or something like that. That way, during your turn, you wouldn't have to discard any of the cards that you drew. So this could be, if you count itself plus the MST, it could be a +2. That's pretty good. When you consider that it can be a +2, that's quite impressive. Now, in domain format, there are 3 opponents. You could play it on your next opponent's turn, draw up to 4, and if you have continuous effects in play or ways to discard cards below 4, during your next opponent's standby, you would draw up to 4 again. Use those same means to discard cards for effects. Third opponent's turn, draw up to 4, and then before your turn, hopefully you have a way of getting rid of Mirage and Nightmare. Otherwise, you have to discard all those cards that you drew, which if you drew 4 and then discarded those 4 on your next standby, that's like milling, and that's, even if that's the downside of this card, it's still really good. It doesn't take much effort to make this card absolutely bonkers, and it just gets better in our format, domain format. Number 7 is Soul Charge. Even with its downsides of not being able to conduct your battle phase, which you can't do on your first turn anyway, even with 1,000 life points per monster, so up to 5,000 life points, it's still always worth it to get that many extra material and resources into play. If you play this and you're able to get 5 creatures in play, that's +4. That's just crazy. Number 6, Card of Safe Return. This is another card with a virtually unlimited upper ceiling of how many cards it can draw you. I'm pretty sure there's decks that can deck themselves out with this card nowadays. Having access to that much draw, hardly anything else compares to this. And there's so many archetypes that special summons in the graveyard. Zombies are the first thing to come to mind. I've actually pulled this off with my Akashi, going up all the synchro chain. I think I drew like 11 cards. It was crazy. And I'm not even sure I won that game, to be honest. I don't remember. Number 5 is The Last Will. This card's worded strangely, but it says, if a monster inside the field was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can special summon 1 monster with attack of 1,500 points or less from your deck once during this turn. But I mean, as far as almost all archetypes go, this card's basically just a free demonic tutor that puts the monster into play. It has no drawbacks. It doesn't say negate the effects. It doesn't say it can't attack or that it can't be used as material. The more cards that come out, the better this card gets, is why I think it's just so bonkers and why it's clearly banned. Number 4, Dimension Fusion. Pay 2,000 life points. Both players special summon as many of the removed play monsters as possible. And I mean, this is basically just Soul Charge with no downside. It doesn't take much work to get monsters banished, and if you're going first, your opponent has nothing and they're banished. Most likely, absolutely crazy. You can +4 off this thing, just like Soul Charge, but you can still conduct your battle phase. Absolutely bonkers. All right, number 3, Graceful Charity. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. In terms of card economy, it's neutral. You don't gain or lose cards, but being able to select the cards that you send to your graveyard enables many archetypes. Getting those extra effects for free into, it's basically a +2 because you're going to be getting effects in your graveyard. And again, no downside at all. What else is there to say about Graceful Charity? Number 2, I'm not sure you guys know what this card does, but this is Pot of Greed, and it has the most elegant, simple card text in the entire game. Draw 2 cards. The card's beautiful, wonderful effect, easy to understand. A diamond in the rough, no downsides, +1s. Any opening hand is better with this. Great top deck. What else is there to say? And this card, I believe, is the best card ever printed in Yu-Gi-Oh! Hey guys, real quick, I just wanted to point out that all these cards I'm listing are legal in domain format. So dust off all your old copies of this next card, come say hi in the Discord. Let's arrange to play sometime. I know you'll have a blast after just one game. see you there. And that is Painful Choice. When it was originally printed, the idea of losing 4 cards that you would like in your hand was incredibly bad. That was the early days attempt to balance this card. You get 1 card out of your deck at the price of 4 that you have to essentially not get access to. Nowadays, you just pick 5 cards with graveyard effects. You are card neutral by getting 1 back into your hand, and then you get to +4 off of all the graveyard effects. Absolutely insane. What else can you say about it? Looking back at my list, I think it's pretty solid. It's difficult to say what monsters would fit on this list because for the most part, monsters aren't as nearly as generic as spells and trap. Any deck can play these spell and trap, and especially in domain, when you consider the domain restrictions, it's hard to say which monsters would be powered. I guess if I had to pick one monster that can be played in any deck that I would consider powerful enough to maybe auto-include, it'd be Sphere Mode. But yeah, those are the cards that I picked. If you think something belongs on here, feel free to comment. I will take the time to try and respond to everybody who comments. And if this is your first time hearing about domain format, let me know. You can always check out my YouTube video that explains the rules. You can check out our Discord where all of us hang out, try and play games online. We either do webcam or untap or whatever. And if you want some ideas for deck lists, I will leave my deck list links in below. If all that sounds cool to you, it'd be neat if you subscribed. You can like the video, it's free, it helps me out. But thank you very much for watching. Until next time, have a good one.